No one was supposed to find the door beneath Washington, D.C., especially not at 2:17 a.m., when the city sleeps and secrets breathe. The archivist's flashlight trembled as it revealed a rusted seal, carved with symbols older than the nation itself. Inside the hidden chamber lay a single black file, untouched by time, labeled only with one word, Revelations. As his fingers brushed the pages, the air grew cold, and the walls seemed to whisper names, cities, dates, disasters. Every event listed had already happened, each one accurately recorded years before it occurred. On the final page, there was nothing but a blank space, except for today's date written in fresh ink. The archivist tried to laugh it off, telling himself it was an elaborate hoax, but the ground beneath him subtly shook, like the city itself had heard its name spoken aloud. When he exited the chamber, his security badge no longer worked, and his phone displayed an emergency alert that vanished before he could read it. Above ground, the Capitol lights flickered once, twice, then steadied, as if nothing was wrong. But deep underground, the file lay open, its pages slowly turning by themselves, waiting for the first revelation to be fulfilled. The sound came before sunrise, low and metallic, echoing through the canyons of New York City like a warning that couldn't be ignored. At first, people thought it was construction, then maybe aircraft, but the noise grew louder, layered, almost musical, like trumpets crying out from the sky. Videos flooded social media before authorities could shut them down, showing clouds splitting apart and dark shapes moving behind them. The Revelations file responded miles away, its second page igniting with words describing a city that would hear the call but refuse to listen. As the sound intensified, birds fell silent, traffic froze, and millions stood staring upward, paralyzed by a fear they couldn't explain. Some swore they saw wings stretching across the clouds, blotting out the morning light. Others felt an overwhelming urge to kneel, though they didn't know why. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the sound stopped. The city exhaled in nervous laughter, calling it mass hysteria, a glitch, a prank. But beneath Manhattan, subway tunnels began flooding without cause, and ancient church bells rang on their own. That night, every clock in the city stopped at the same exact second. Somewhere, unseen and unheard, the second revelation quietly sealed itself, and the sky closed as if it had never opened at all. Fire fell from the sky without warning, turning California's night into a screaming sunrise. Emergency lines were overwhelmed as flames erupted in places untouched by wind or lightning, burning in perfect, unnatural lines. Witnesses claimed the fire didn't spread, it hunted. The Revelations file revealed its third passage, describing rain that burned and a coast that would glow like judgment. Firefighters spoke of flames that changed direction, avoiding water, climbing uphill against all logic. In Los Angeles, shadows flickered within the inferno, tall and unmoving, watching as neighborhoods vanished. Satellite images briefly captured patterns in the fires, symbols matching those carved into the file beneath Washington. Officials blamed climate extremes, dry seasons, anything that sounded reasonable, but the air smelled wrong, heavy, and metallic, as if the fire itself was alive. People reported hearing whispers in the smoke, voices calling their names, promising safety if they just stepped closer. By morning, entire regions were ash, yet some houses remained untouched, standing alone like spared offerings. The third revelation ended with a single line burned into the page: "The fire is not the punishment, it is the signal." As the smoke drifted out to sea, the sky darkened worldwide, and something ancient stirred. Awakened by flames humanity could no longer control. The silence arrived in Texas like a sudden death. One moment, wind rustled the plains. The next, nothing existed but an unbearable quiet. Entire towns lost sound at once. Voices moved without noise. Car engines started without a hum. Dogs barked in mute terror. People screamed and heard nothing in return. The Revelations file warned of a land where sound would be taken as a test, where silence would weigh heavier than any explosion. Military drones sent to investigate fell from the sky, crashing soundlessly into empty streets. Panic spread as residents realized they couldn't even hear their own heartbeats. Some claimed the silence pressed against their minds, forcing memories of guilt and regret to surface uninvited. Churches filled with people praying in voiceless desperation, tears falling onto floors they couldn't hear crack beneath their knees. After 6 hours, sound returned all at once, a deafening wave that knocked people unconscious. Radios crackled to life with a single interrupted broadcast before cutting out again. It's listening. The file's page sealed shut, its ink drying like blood. Texas resumed its noise, but those who lived through the silence were changed forever. They all shared the same nightmare that night, something vast, awake and waiting for the next revelation. The desert of Nevada hid its secrets well, but not from what had been awakened. Near Area 51, seismic sensors detected movement far beneath the earth, massive and deliberate. The Revelations file spoke of a buried host, not born but built, created in mankind's attempt to prepare for the end. Former soldiers broke decades of silence, whispering about an underground project meant to weaponize prophecy itself. They were told it was defense. They were wrong. As the ground split in remote stretches of desert, lights emerged from below, cold, intelligent, watching. Civilians reported seeing towering silhouettes moving beneath the sand, as if the earth itself had learned to walk. Military communications abruptly went dark, replaced by coded messages repeating a single phrase. Containment failed. The file's fifth passage described an army that did not breathe, did not sleep, and did not forget humanity's mistakes. Satellites captured one final image before losing signal. A massive eye opening beneath the desert floor. By dawn, the cracks sealed themselves, leaving no evidence except panic and a nation growing afraid of what it had tried to control. The revelation closed with a warning humanity had ignored once before. What you awaken will judge you by your own design. The river turned first, darkening as if night itself had begun to flow. Along the Mississippi, fishermen watched in horror as the water shifted to a deep red, black hue, thick and slow, carrying the stench of iron. Animals fled the banks, and those who touched the water fell violently ill. The Revelations file called it the bloodline, a marker drawn not for death, but for counting. Barges drifted unmanned as crews vanished without signs of struggle, leaving behind only scorched footprints that stopped at the water's edge. Locals spoke of old legends, older than the nation, about a river that remembers every sin poured into it. Scientists found no explanation, no algae, no chemicals, no natural cause. At night, the river glowed faintly, pulsing like a living vein. Some claimed to see faces beneath the surface, watching silently as time slipped away. The file revealed the sixth truth: when the river changes, the clock begins. As the discoloration spread upstream and downstream, panic rippled across the country. Emergency alerts failed. Maps refused to update. The river continued its slow march, carrying the weight of history toward an ending no one could stop. Every screen in America turned black at the same moment. Then the broadcast began. Phones, televisions, billboards, even emergency systems displayed the same image: a hooded figure standing in shadow, its face hidden, its voice calm and unwavering. "You were warned," it said, as cities went dark one by one. The Revelations file's 7th page filled itself as the message continued, accusing a nation of choosing comfort over truth, noise over wisdom. Behind the figure, distorted images flashed: fire, silence, shadows, blood-red water. Each revelation replayed like evidence in a trial. Power grids failed mid-sentence, plunging millions into darkness. In Chicago, where the broadcast originated, witnesses claimed the air vibrated as if reality itself was unraveling. The figure ended with a single phrase: "This was avoidable." Then everything stopped. No signal, no power, no explanation. The file sealed shut with a sound like a closing door. Across the country, people realized the same terrifying truth. The revelations were not random disasters. They were steps, and only one remained. The sky turned red before the sun could rise, painting the world in a color that felt wrong to look at. No satellites responded, no clocks worked. The Revelations file opened one last time, its final page filling with words written in blinding light. It spoke not of America alone, but of the world that watched and learned nothing. The disasters stopped, replaced by an overwhelming stillness, as if reality itself was holding its breath. People stepped outside to find the air heavy, charged, alive. In the distance, the ground hummed softly, like something vast preparing to move. The final revelation revealed the truth humanity feared most. These events were not prophecy, but memory, a cycle repeated whenever power replaced humility. As the red sky deepened, shadows stretched unnaturally long, pointing toward the horizon. The file's last line burned itself into the page and then into the minds of all who saw the sky. "This is not the end. This is the awakening." Then the light vanished. The sky returned to blue. Power slowly came back. Life continued, but nothing felt the same. Because deep down, everyone knew the revelations were complete, and the warning had already been delivered.